First contact. The deep space monitor on the bridge of HMS Thunder blinked red. Admiral Tom Smith looked up from his tablet, his weathered face reflecting the pulsing light. After 20 years in space, he knew that unexpected signals usually meant trouble. "Report," he ordered, his voice calm but firm. "Sir, we're picking up multiple objects approaching from Sector 7, replied Jack, the sensor officer. His fingers moved quickly across the holographic display. "They're big, sir. Really big." The Thunder was humanity's first true warship built for deep space combat. While other ships focused on exploration or trade, the Thunder carried enough firepower to level a small continent. Its black hull, covered in stealth panels, made it nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. "Show me," Smith commanded. The main screen lit up, displaying a cluster of dots moving in perfect formation. No human fleet ever moved with such precision. The Admiral's heart rate quickened, but his face remained neutral. In the Galactic Council's command ship, High Commander Rax stared at his own display with 4 of his eyes, while his other 2 focused on status reports. The unknown vessel had appeared at the edge of their territory without warning. "Impossible," he muttered. His scaled skin shifted colors, showing his confusion. A single ship dares to enter Council space. The concept of a lone warship operating this far from its home system went against all military doctrine he knew. Back on the Thunder, the crew worked with practiced efficiency. They had trained for first contact, but no one really expected it to happen during a routine patrol. Running analysis on their hull composition, reported Mary from engineering. She had helped design the Thunder's weapon systems. "Sir, these ships, they're using materials we've never seen before." Smith nodded slowly. He studied the approaching formation. 50 ships, all bigger than the Thunder, moving as one unit. Their hulls gleamed with a metallic sheen that seemed to shift colors in the starlight. "Beautiful, but deadly." "Open frequencies," Smith ordered. "Let's try talking first." On the Council ship, Rax received the transmission request. His species had led the Galactic Council for 3 centuries, maintaining peace through overwhelming force. The idea that a primitive race would willingly face his Armada amused him. "Accept the transmission," he ordered. "Let us hear what these creatures have to say before we teach them about proper protocol." The communications officer, a tall insectoid being, clicked its mandibles in acknowledgement. The screen came alive with an image that made several bridge crews step back. The human form was unnervingly simple. Just 2 eyes, no scales, and far too much exposed skin. "This is Admiral Tom Smith of the HMS Thunder, representing Earth and humanity." Smith's voice came through clearly. "We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations." Rax's scales rippled with dark amusement. A single ship talking about diplomacy to an armada. Either these humans were incredibly brave or monumentally stupid. He decided it was the latter. "I am High Commander Rax of the Galactic Council Armada," he responded, his translator converting his complex tones into basic space standard language. "You have entered restricted space. Surrender your vessel immediately or face destruction." On the Thunder's bridge, Smith's lips tightened slightly. He had hoped for a better first contact, but humanity hadn't survived this long by being unprepared. Without moving his head, he signaled his weapons officer to begin warming up the main guns. "Just in case." "With respect, Commander," Smith replied carefully. "We were unaware this sector was restricted. We're happy to withdraw and discuss proper boundaries." Rax's scales flashed bright red, a sign of authority his crew knew well. "You have 30 seconds to power down your systems. The Council does not negotiate with primitives." As the transmission ended, both commanders prepared for what would come next. Neither realized this encounter would change the galaxy forever. The misunderstanding, the 30-second countdown, felt like an eternity on both ships. Admiral Smith stood quietly, watching the massive alien fleet through the main viewport. The Thunder's stealth systems were working perfectly. Their power signature looked like nothing more than a small trading vessel to the alien sensors. "Sir, Jack whispered from his station. "They're positioning for an attack formation. But they're leaving gaps. Big ones." Smith nodded slowly. The alien ships moved with perfect precision, but their formation showed they had never faced a truly creative opponent. They were spreading out in a standard sphere pattern, trying to surround the Thunder. It was textbook tactics, if your textbook was written by someone who had never faced a real war. On the Council flagship, High Commander Rax watched with growing irritation as his sensors failed to get a clear reading on the human vessel. The ship was there, he could see it, but the energy readings made no sense. "Report." He barked at his science officer, a thin creature with crystalline skin. "Commander, their power signature suggests a vessel no larger than a cargo runner," the officer replied, confusion evident in their chiming voice. "But our visual scans show military-grade armor plating. It's contradictory." Rax's scales darkened with frustration. In 300 years of Council rule, no species had dared to resist the Armada. These humans were either insane or hiding something. He decided to find out which. 20 seconds, Mary announced on the Thunder's bridge. She had finished her analysis of the alien ships. "Sir, their hull material is advanced, but it's designed to deflect energy weapons. They're not prepared for kinetic impacts." Smith allowed himself a small smile. Humanity had learned long ago not to rely on a single type of defense. The Thunder carried both energy and physical weapons, each designed to overcome different types of protection. 10 seconds echoed through both ships. In the Armada, weapon systems hummed to life. 50 ships, each capable of destroying a small moon, prepared to fire. The crews felt no anxiety. This was just another display of Council authority. 5 seconds. On the Thunder, Smith made his decision. "Active countermeasures," he ordered calmly. "But hold fire unless fired upon. Let's show them why humanity survived its own wars." The countdown hit 0. High Commander Rax didn't hesitate. "Fire warning shots," he commanded. "Disable their engines." Brilliant beams of energy lanced out from 20 ships simultaneously. They sliced through space toward the Thunder. A display of power that had broken the will of countless species before. But something impossible happened. The beams seemed to bend around the human ship, dispersing harmlessly into space. The Thunder's hull flickered slightly, the only sign that their shield technology had engaged. Impossible. Rax's scales flashed white with shock. "All ships, full attack pattern. Destroy that vessel." The entire Armada opened fire, turning space into a web of deadly energy. On the Thunder's bridge, the crew remained calm. Their ship danced through the barrage, its movement unlike anything the Council forces had seen before. "Sir," Jack reported with a hint of pride, "their targeting systems can't lock onto us. The stealth field is working perfectly." Smith watched the alien fleet's increasingly desperate attempts to hit his ship. Each miss told him more about their capabilities and their limitations. The Council had grown comfortable with their technological superiority. They had forgotten that true warfare required more than just powerful weapons. "Send a message to command," Smith ordered. "First contact protocol has failed. Preparing for defensive action." He paused, then added, "And tell them we're about to show the galaxy why humans never lost their fighting spirit." As the message was sent, the Thunder began its real maneuvers. It was time to teach the Galactic Council that humanity was not to be underestimated. The warning that Thunder's sensors picked up a new energy spike from the alien fleet. Admiral Smith recognized it immediately. They were charging their main weapons. The kind of weapons that could crack planets. "Open a channel," Smith ordered. "Let's try one last time to prevent unnecessary bloodshed." High Commander Rax was surprised when the human signal came through again. His crew had just witnessed their most powerful weapons fail against a single ship. For the first time in his long career, he felt a twinge of uncertainty. "You seem confused, Commander Rax." Smith's voice carried no hint of fear. "Perhaps we should explain something about humans before this goes any further." The Thunder's engines pulsed softly, moving the ship into a better defensive position. Every movement was precise, calculated, showing years of combat experience that the aliens couldn't understand. "Your weapons are impressive," Smith continued. "But humans, we've been killing each other for thousands of years. We've mastered the art of warfare in ways you can't imagine." Rax's scales shifted to a deep blue, a sign of growing concern. His tactical officer had just reported that the human ship's movement patterns matched no known combat doctrine. They couldn't predict where it would go next. "You threaten the Council with your primitive warfare." Rax tried to sound confident. "We have conquered galaxies." Smith shook his head slowly. "No, Commander. I'm not threatening. I'm warning. Humans don't want war. We've seen too much of it. But if you force this fight—" He paused, letting his words sink in. "We will finish it." On the Council ship, data started flowing in from their deep space scanners. Information about Earth, about human history. Rax's eyes widened as he read. These creatures had fought wars that lasted decades. They had developed weapons that could destroy their own planet several times over. They had nearly wiped themselves out multiple times, and still survived. "Your species is barbaric," Rax announced, but his voice wavered slightly. "No," Smith replied calmly. "We're survivors. We learned from every war, every battle, every death. The Thunder isn't just a warship, Commander. It's the product of 10,000 years of human conflict. We built it hoping we'd never need to use it, but we built it ready for anything." The silence that followed was heavy. In the Council fleet, officers looked at their commanders nervously. None of their training had prepared them for this situation. "Last chance, Commander." Smith's voice was quiet but firm. "Withdraw your fleet. Let's talk about peace instead of war. Because if you fire those weapons again—" He let the sentence hang unfinished. Rax stared at the human ship through his viewport. It seemed to shimmer slightly, like a predator waiting to strike. His tactical officer was still trying to get a weapons lock, still failing. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, one that had known only victory through overwhelming force, and one that had been forged in the fires of countless conflicts. The next move would change everything. The first Strike High Commander Rax made his decision. "All ships, maximum power to forward batteries. Fire everything." The space around the Thunder erupted in a dazzling display of energy weapons. Beams of all colors cut through the void, creating a deadly web of destruction. It was the kind of attack that had destroyed entire fleets in the past. But the Thunder was ready. "Point defense systems engage," Mary reported from her station. Her voice was steady as her fingers danced across the controls. The Thunder's outer hull came alive, hundreds of small ports opening simultaneously. What happened next stunned the alien fleet. Small, fast-moving objects shot out from the Thunder, intercepting the energy beams. Each impact created a small explosion that dispersed the alien weapons harmlessly into space. "Impossible." Rax slammed his fist on his command chair. "What are those devices?" On the Thunder's bridge, Smith allowed himself a small smile. "Simple physics," he muttered. "Sometimes the old ways work best." The Thunder's point defense system was based on an ancient human weapon, the shotgun. Thousands of small metal pellets, each coated with energy-dispersing materials, created a shield of physical objects around the ship. No energy weapon could get through. "Sir," Jack called out, "they're changing formation, trying to find a gap in our defense." The alien fleet split into smaller groups, attacking from multiple angles. Their ships moved with practiced precision, but their tactics were predictable. They had never needed to adapt their strategy before. "Keep our stern protected," Smith ordered, "and prepare the main gun. Let's show them what human weapons can do." The Thunder's movement changed. Instead of avoiding the attacks, it began to weave between them. Each maneuver brought it closer to the alien fleet's command ship. In the Council fleet, panic began to spread. Their most powerful weapons were being stopped by simple metal objects. Nothing in their combat training had prepared them for this. Their ship is accelerating, Rax's tactical officer reported, fear evident in their voice. Energy readings are changing. The Thunder's main gun was different from anything the Council had seen. While they relied on energy weapons, humans remembered the devastating power of physical impacts. The main gun was a refined version of a railgun, capable of launching projectiles at incredible speeds. "Target locked," Mary announced. "Ready to fire." Smith stood from his chair, watching the alien fleet through the viewport. "Send a message to Commander Rax," he ordered. "Tell him, this is your last chance to withdraw. The next shot will not miss." The message was transmitted. On the Council ship, Rax stared at his display in disbelief. His fleet's sensors still couldn't get a proper lock on the Thunder. The human ship's stealth systems made it appear to be in multiple places at once. The next few moments would prove whether the Council's technological superiority could stand against humanity's martial experience. The galaxy held its breath. Revelation: the Galactic Council's emergency meeting chamber hadn't been used in over 50 years. Now it buzzed with nervous energy as reports from the fleet poured in. The Council members, representing 20 different species, watched in stunned silence as the battle footage played. "How?" asked the eldest member, his crystalline form shimmering with concern. "How can one ship resist our entire armada?" The answer came from their chief military historian, who had been studying Earth's transmissions. His tentacles trembled as he activated the main display. "Humans," he began, "have never known peace. Their entire history is warfare." Images flashed across the screen. Ancient battles with swords, massive wars with primitive projectile weapons, modern conflicts with devastating results. "In the time it took us to develop our first energy weapon," the historian continued, "humans had already created and improved their weapons thousands of times. They never stopped. They never rested." High Commander Rax's transmission interrupted the meeting. His scales had turned pale gray, a sign of deep distress. "The human ship, it's not just advanced. It's built for war in ways we never imagined." The Council watched as new footage showed the Thunder evading their attacks. The ship moved like a predator, each movement precise and deadly. Their energy weapons, powerful enough to shatter moons, were being blocked by simple metal particles. "Their point defense system," the historian explained, "is based on a weapon they created thousands of years ago. They took something primitive and made it defeat our most advanced technology." One Council member stood up, their robotic body whirring. "But surely our numbers." "Numbers mean nothing," the historian cut in. "Humans have fought battles outnumbered 10 to 1, 100 to 1. And won. They call it asymmetric warfare. They perfect it through constant practice." More images appeared: guerrilla warfare, naval battles, aerial combat. Each showing humans adapting, improvising, overcoming superior forces through sheer ingenuity and determination. "The Thunder," he continued, "isn't just a warship. It's the culmination of every lesson humans learned from their endless wars. Every defeat taught them something new. Every victory showed them what worked." The Council chamber fell silent as they realized the truth. They hadn't just encountered a new species. They had found one that had mastered warfare in ways they never imagined possible. "What do they want?" asked the eldest member quietly. The historian played Admiral Smith's last transmission. The human's calm voice filled the chamber. "We don't want war. We've seen too much of it. But we will not surrender. Ever." The Council members looked at each other nervously. For the first time in centuries, they faced a species that didn't fear their power. A species that had turned warfare into an art form. They had to decide: continue the fight and risk facing humanity's full military might, or admit that perhaps, just this once, peace was the better option. The High Commander Rax's last warning had been ignored. Now, Admiral Smith stood at his command station, watching the alien fleet regroup for another attack. "Main gun status," Smith asked quietly. "Ready, sir," Mary replied. Tungsten rod loaded. Mass drivers at full power. The Thunder's main weapon was deceptively simple. No fancy energy beams, no plasma torpedoes, just a 20-foot rod of solid tungsten, accelerated to near-light speed by massive electromagnetic rails. Target their lead destroyer, Smith ordered. Minimal power. Let's show them what kinetic weapons can do. The Thunder's hull hummed as power flowed to the main gun. In space, the barrel emerged from its hidden compartment, looking almost primitive compared to the aliens' sleek energy weapons. Sir, Jack reported, they're powering up their shields. Energy readings are off the charts. Smith nodded. Fire. The Thunder's main gun fired with surprisingly little visual effect. Just a brief flash and a slight shudder through the ship. The tungsten rod, moving at a fraction of light speed, crossed the space between the ships in milliseconds. On the Council's lead destroyer, alarms blared as something their sensors barely detected approached. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons, might as well have been paper. The rod struck the destroyer's bow. Physics did the rest. The kinetic energy transferred instantly, ripping through the alien ship like it was made of cloth. The destroyer split in half, its reactor failing as secondary explosions tore it apart. Complete silence fell across the alien fleet. Their most advanced shields, capable of stopping their strongest energy weapons, had failed to even slow down the human weapon. By the ancestors, Rax whispered, watching the destroyer's remains drift apart. What kind of weapon was that? Smith opened a channel to the alien fleet. That was humanity's answer to energy shields, Commander. A simple rod of metal, moving very, very fast. No fancy energy signatures to detect. No way to deflect it. Just pure kinetic force. The alien crews watched in horror as the Thunder's main gun slowly retracted back into its hull. Their sensors showed dozens more tungsten rods stored inside the human ship. Your shields are impressive, Smith continued, but they're designed to stop energy weapons. We humans learned long ago not to rely on just one type of defense or attack. The Thunder's point defense system had shown the aliens that their energy weapons were useless. Now, the main gun had proven their shields were equally ineffective against human ingenuity. That shot was at 10% power, Smith added. The next one won't be. Stand down your fleet, Commander. Let's talk about peace instead of testing humanity's other weapons. In the Council fleet, panic began to spread. Their invincible Armada had just learned a harsh lesson about human warfare. Sometimes the simplest solutions were the most devastating. The Battle of Thunder moved like a shark through water. Admiral Smith had spent years studying ancient naval battles, and now he put those lessons to use in space. Crossing the T, he muttered, remembering the classic naval maneuver. Mary, prepare another rod. 15% power this time. The alien fleet was in disarray. Their rigid formation, perfect for energy weapon battles, left them vulnerable to the Thunder's unconventional tactics. They had never faced an enemy that thought in 3 dimensions. Sir, Jack called out, they're trying to surround us again. Smith smiled. Let them try. Execute maneuver Nelson 3. The Thunder suddenly cut its engines and rotated on its axis. In space, momentum carried it forward while its weapons now faced a new direction. It was a move straight from wet Navy submarines, adapted for space warfare. High Commander Rax watched in confusion as the human ship seemed to drift. Target that vessel. They'd lost power, but the Thunder hadn't lost power. As the alien ships moved to attack, the human warship fired its maneuvering thrusters in a complex pattern. It spun through space like a deadly dancer, its point defense system creating a sphere of protection around it. They fight like water-world predators, one of Rax's officers observed. No pattern, no formation, just pure instinct and skill. The Thunder's main gun fired again. The tungsten rod, moving faster than before, punched through another alien ship's shields like they weren't there. The vessel didn't explode. It simply split apart, Torn by forces it was never designed to resist. Move to pattern Delta. Rax ordered desperately. Concentrate fire on their engine section. But the Thunder was already moving again. Smith had studied the battles of Admiral Yi Sun-sin, who had defeated larger Japanese fleets with just a handful of ships. Space was his ocean now, and the Thunder was his turtle ship. "They're bunching up," Mary reported, "trying to overlap their shields." Smith nodded. "Exactly what I was waiting for. Launch countermeasures, full spread. Then bring us about for a bow shot." Hundreds of small objects launched from the Thunder. The alien fleet's sensors registered them as debris, harmless chunks of metal. They were wrong. Each piece contained a small explosive charge. When detonated, they created a cloud of metallic dust that blinded the alien sensors. An old trick from submarine warfare, like chaff used against radar, adapted for space. "Amazing," Jack whispered as the alien fleet fired blindly into the dust cloud. They never expected physical warfare in space. The Thunder emerged from the cloud behind the alien fleet. Its main gun was already aimed at the perfect spot. Smith had positioned his ship exactly where he wanted it, using the enemy's own tactics against them. The battle was about to enter its final phase. Breaking Point Thai Commander Rax's command ship shuddered as another explosion rocked the fleet. His scales had turned a sickly gray color as he watched his mighty Armada fall into chaos. 6 ships destroyed, his tactical officer reported, voice trembling. 12 more heavily damaged. "We can't stop their weapons, Commander." The Thunder had been systematically picking apart his fleet for the past hour. Each shot from its main gun found its target with terrifying accuracy. The human ship moved through space like a ghost, appearing where least expected. "We must retreat," one of his sub-commanders suggested. "We've never faced anything like this." "Retreat." Rax's scales flushed red with rage. "The Council Armada has never retreated. We are the supreme military force in the galaxy." But his crew's confidence was broken. They had watched their most powerful weapons bounce harmlessly off the human ship's defenses. They had seen their strongest shields pierced like paper by simple metal rods. On the Thunder's bridge, Admiral Smith watched the alien fleet's formation continue to deteriorate. Their once perfect patterns had dissolved into confused clusters of ships trying to stay alive. "They're breaking, sir," Jack reported. Internal communications showed growing discord in their ranks. Smith nodded. He had seen this before in Earth's naval battles. The moment when a superior force realizes it's not invincible. When fear replaces certainty. "Commander Rax," a junior officer spoke up on the alien flagship. "The other ships are requesting permission to withdraw. They say this isn't a battle anymore. It's a slaughter." Rax stared at his display. The Thunder was moving again, its trajectory taking it through the heart of his fleet. His sensors still couldn't get a proper lock on it. The human ship seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. "How?" he whispered. "How can one ship do this?" The answer came from his oldest officer, a veteran of 100 battles. "Because they understand war, Commander. We fight with technology. They fight with their minds." Another alien ship exploded as a tungsten rod tore through its reactor core. The Thunder emerged from the explosion unscathed, its black hull reflecting the flames like a demon from ancient myths. "Your orders, Commander," the tactical officer asked, fear evident in his voice. Rax faced the hardest decision of his career. Continue fighting and watch his fleet be destroyed piece by piece, or admit defeat for the first time in Council history. The choice, the Galactic Council's emergency chamber, was in an uproar. Battle reports streamed in continuously, showing the systematic dismantling of their finest fleet by a single human warship. "We must send reinforcements," shouted one council member, their holographic form flickering with agitation. "Our entire defensive doctrine is obsolete," argued another. "This human ship has proven that our technology means nothing against their experience." The eldest council member raised his crystalline hand for silence. The chamber screen showed the current state of the battle, half the Armada disabled or destroyed, the rest in disarray. "Show us the human ship again," he ordered. The Thunder appeared on the main display, its dark hull bearing not a single scratch despite hours of combat. The Council watched as it executed another impossible maneuver, evading a barrage of energy weapons while simultaneously targeting another alien vessel. "Their weapons are primitive," the military advisor noted. "Simple metal projectiles, basic explosives. But their tactics," he paused, searching for words. "They fight like they've been doing this forever." A new transmission arrived from High Commander Rax. His scales had lost all color, showing deep shock. "The human captain sends terms," he reported. "They're willing to cease fire if we acknowledge their sovereignty and open diplomatic channels." The council chamber erupted again. Some members demanded immediate acceptance of the terms. Others called for bringing in the reserve fleets. "Silence," the eldest member commanded. "We face a choice that will define our civilization. These humans," he gestured at the battle footage, "they could have destroyed the entire fleet. Instead, they disabled our ships with surgical precision. They show both power and restraint." The military advisor nodded. "Their tactics suggest centuries of warfare experience, but their messages consistently offer peace. They fight like demons but speak like diplomats." A younger council member stood up. "Perhaps that is why they are so dangerous. They know the true cost of war. They've learned what we never had to, how to survive against superior forces." The council watched as another alien ship's engines went dark, disabled by a precise shot from the Thunder. The human ship could have destroyed it but chose not to. The eldest member looked around the chamber. "We must decide. Continue this fight and risk facing humanity's full military might, or admit that we found a species worthy of respect rather than conquest." The fate of galactic peace hung in the balance. New Dawn Admiral Smith stood in the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, his dress uniform a stark contrast to the exotic forms of the alien representatives. The Thunder floated in space nearby, its dark hull now a symbol of both power and peace. "The terms are simple," Smith addressed the Council. "Earth joins as an equal member. We share our defensive capabilities. You share your technological advances. Together, we build something better than conquest." The Council members exchanged glances. The human ship had changed everything they thought they knew about warfare and power. "Your ship disabled half our fleet," the eldest member noted. "You could have destroyed them all." Smith nodded. "We could have, but humans learned a long time ago. The goal of war shouldn't be destruction. It should be peace." High Commander Rax, his scales now a calm blue, stepped forward. "I opposed this at first, but I saw how your ship fought. You had the power to annihilate us, yet you chose precision over devastation. That shows wisdom we didn't expect." The Thunder's success had forced the Council to reconsider everything. Their military doctrine, based on overwhelming force, seemed primitive compared to human tactical thinking. "We propose a joint defense force," Smith continued. "Human experience combined with Council technology. We face the galaxy together, not as conquerors, but as guardians." The military advisors studied the proposals. Human combat doctrine would revolutionize their forces. The Council's technology would advance human civilization. Together, they could create something unprecedented. "And your weapons?" asked one council member. "These kinetic devices that defeated our best shields." Smith smiled. "Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best. We'll teach you about kinetic warfare. You teach us about energy weapons. We both grow stronger." The council chamber fell silent as the eldest member stood. His crystalline form caught the light as he raised his hand. "The vote is cast," he announced. "Earth is welcomed into the Galactic Council. Let this day mark not just the end of a battle, but the beginning of a new era." As the chamber erupted in approval, Smith looked out at the stars. The Thunder had done its job, not just protecting humanity, but forcing the galaxy to recognize a fundamental truth. True strength comes not from power alone, but from knowing how and when to use it. Humanity had joined the stars not through conquest or submission, but by demonstrating both power and wisdom. The galaxy would never be the same. The thunder would remain as a symbol, a reminder that sometimes the best way to prevent war is to be very, very good at it.